I was once lost in life, lazy, addicted, and full of bad habits. I lacked confidence and direction, and every day felt wasted. But one day, I decided to change, starting small with tiny habits. Step by step, I rebuilt my life, my health, my studies, my relationships, and my confidence. This is my story of transformation, showing how small actions can lead to a better life. My name is Daniel, and this is my story. For many years, my life was not good. From the outside, people thought I was just a normal young man. I had a family, I had the chance to study, and I had enough time to build my future. But inside, I was weak, broken, and full of bad habits. Every morning when I opened my eyes, I already felt tired. Every night before I went to bed, I felt guilty. I was trapped in a cycle that I could not escape. Most of my days started very late. I did not wake up early like disciplined people. I usually stayed in bed until 10 or even 11 in the morning. When my alarm rang, I pressed the button and went back to sleep. I told myself, just 5 more minutes. But 5 minutes always became 1 hour or two. By the time I finally stood up, half of the day was already gone. The first thing I touched in the morning was not a book or my notebook. It was my phone. I scrolled through social media for hours. I looked at pictures, videos, and useless posts. I laughed. I clicked. I wasted time. After that, I often watched pornography. It was my secret habit, the one that made me ashamed of myself. I tried to tell myself it was normal, that many people did it, but in my heart I knew it was destroying me. Every time I finished, I felt weak. I felt guilty. I looked at myself in the mirror and hated what I saw. Because of this habit, I also wasted my energy on masturbation. It became automatic. Whenever I was bored, whenever I was sad, whenever I was stressed, I ran to it. It gave me short pleasure, but stole my long-term strength. It made me lazy and unfocused. It killed my discipline. My health was not good either. I slept too much, 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours, and still I felt tired. My body was weak because I did not exercise. I loved football when I was a child, but now I did not even run. My chest was thin, my muscles were soft, and I had no energy. My food choices were bad as well. I ate chips, fast food, and sugar all the time. I drank soda more than water. Sometimes I smoked, and sometimes I drank alcohol with friends. I thought it made me look cool, but in truth, it only made me weaker. Because I wasted my days like this, my education started to suffer. I missed classes, I missed assignments. Even when I sat in front of my books, I could not focus. My phone distracted me, my habits distracted me, and my mind was always tired. I knew I was intelligent, but intelligence without discipline is useless. My teachers started to lose respect for me. My classmates moved forward, but I stayed behind. My relationships were also poor. I did not have close friends I could trust. I avoided girls because I felt small and insecure. When I tried to talk to people, I felt nervous. I had no confidence in myself. Deep inside, I thought, why would anyone want to talk to me? I am not interesting. I am not strong. I am not reliable. Even my family could see that I was wasting my life. Sometimes they tried to encourage me. Sometimes they scolded me. But I never changed. At night, I often went out with people who also had no discipline. We smoked, we drank, we laughed, and we wasted more time. When I came home, I was tired, but instead of sleeping early, I watched more pornography or played more games. Then I slept very late, and the cycle continued. Every night I told myself, tomorrow I will change. But when tomorrow came, nothing was different. This routine destroyed me slowly. I could feel it. My body was weak. My studies were falling apart. and my heart was empty. I felt like a ghost in my own life. I looked at other people who were moving forward, people who were studying hard, people who were going to the gym, people who were making friends and building relationships. I wanted to be like them, but I was stuck. I was always stuck. Sometimes late at night, when I was alone, I asked myself painful questions. Is this really my life? Will I always be like this? What if I never change? These questions scared me because I did not have answers. I tried many times to change. I tried to stop watching porn. I tried to wake up early. I tried to study hard. But every time I started, after a few days, I failed again. I thought the problem was motivation. I thought if I just became motivated enough, I could change. But motivation never stayed. It was like the wind. It came one day and disappeared the next. The turning point came one morning when I had an important exam. The night before, I promised myself that I would sleep early, wake up on time, and review everything. But I stayed awake watching movies and wasting time. I fell asleep at 3 in the morning. When I finally opened my eyes, it was already 11. The exam had already started. I missed it completely. That moment broke me. My teacher was disappointed. My classmates looked at me with pity. I felt like the biggest failure in the world. That night, I sat alone in my room. I did not play games. I did not watch porn. I just sat in silence. I thought about my life. I thought about all the years I had wasted, all the potential I had destroyed. I realized something very simple but very hard. If I do not change, my life will be wasted. If I keep going like this, I will become nothing. For the first time, I was honest with myself. I admitted that I was not strong. I admitted that I had no control. I admitted that my habits were my chains. And I told myself, enough. I must change. I don't know how yet, but I must. That night was the beginning. It was not the end of my struggles, but it was the start of something new. After the exam disaster, something inside me broke. For many years, I felt guilty and weak. But this time it was different. I could not run away from the truth anymore. My teacher did not shout at me. He just looked at me with disappointment, and that look hurt me more than any words. My classmates did not laugh, but I could see in their eyes that they no longer believed in me. My parents did not even know about the exam yet, but I already felt ashamed in front of them. That evening, I did not meet friends. I did not go on my phone. I just went home, closed my door, and sat on my bed. My room was quiet, but my head was noisy. Thoughts kept attacking me. Why are you like this? Why do you waste every chance? Why do you always lie to yourself? Will you ever change? I felt heavy, as if a mountain was on my chest. I tried to cry, but the tears did not come. Instead, I sat for hours, staring at the wall. For the first time, I allowed myself to admit that my life was a mess, and it was my own fault. That night, something unusual happened. Normally, I would escape into my habits, watch porn, play games, or scroll on social media to forget my pain. But this time, I did not do any of that. It was as if my body was too tired to run anymore. I simply sat in silence and felt the weight of my choices. It was the first honest night of my life. I thought about my future. If I continued this way, what would happen? I imagined myself 5 years later, still wasting time, still weak, still addicted. No job, no respect, no health, no love. That image scared me more than anything. For the first time, I saw where my life was going, and I hated it. At the same time, I also thought about who I could become if I changed. What if I studied seriously? What if I trained my body? What if I built good habits? I imagined myself as a confident man, standing tall, respected, strong, healthy, successful. That image felt so far away, but it gave me a little hope. The problem was clear. I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. I had tried before, but every time I failed. I thought change required strong motivation, but motivation always disappeared. I thought change required big actions, but big actions always scared me. I did not understand what was missing. A few days later, while searching online, I found something interesting. I came across an article about habits. The title was something like, "Small Habits Can Change Your Life." At first I laughed. I thought, how can small habits change anything? My problems are big, my addictions are strong, my weaknesses are huge. Small habits will do nothing. But for some reason, I kept reading. The article spoke about a simple idea. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. It said that success is not about big changes, it is about small, consistent actions that repeat every day. One sentence stayed in my mind. If you get 1% better every day, you will be 37 times better in 1 year. That number shocked me. 37 times better, just by small changes? The article also explained why big goals often fail. When you focus only on outcomes like, I want to lose 10 kilos or I want to quit porn forever, you feel pressure. If you miss one day, you feel like a failure and give up. But when you focus on identity, like I am the kind of person who trains every day, or I am the kind of person who respects my body, you build habits that last. I felt like someone had opened my eyes. For years, I was chasing big goals with weak systems. No wonder I failed. What I needed was not more motivation. What I needed was a system of small habits. That night, I searched more. I found many people talking about the same book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. That was the lesson of the breaking point. Failure pushed me down, but small habits gave me a way to rise again. When I first started, I did not know if these tiny changes would really work. One push-up, one sentence, one small decision to put my phone in another room. It all seemed too small to change my broken life. But day by day, these little actions started to form a shape. I did not see it at first, but later I realized that I was building something much more powerful than motivation. I was building a system. In the past, I lived in a constant battle with myself. Every morning I would wake up and tell myself that I needed to be perfect. I would make huge promises. Today I will study for 6 hours. Today I will go to the gym and run 10 kilometers. Today I will never touch my phone. Today I will never watch porn again. For a few hours, maybe I tried, but soon I became tired, bored, or distracted. I always failed, and then I hated myself for failing. That cycle killed my confidence. But now I was learning to think differently. Instead of perfection, I focused on progress. Instead of trying to change my life in one day, I focused on changing my actions for just one moment. I told myself, if I can win this moment, the next moment will be easier. The beauty of small habits is that they do not scare you. One push-up is not scary. One sentence in a notebook is not scary. 10 minutes of study is not scary. Because they are so small, you cannot say no. And when you repeat them, they start to grow naturally. That is how my system began. In the mornings, I built a new routine. I woke up, left my phone in another room, brushed my teeth, did my push-ups, and wrote one sentence. After a few weeks, I added something new. After the sentence, I opened my book and studied for just 10 minutes. 10 minutes was nothing compared to the hours I wasted before, but it was still progress. What surprised me was how 10 minutes often became more. Once I opened the book, once I started reading, I usually continued. Sometimes 10 minutes became 30 minutes, sometimes even 1 hour. The secret was to make the start easy. When starting is easy, continuing becomes natural. In the evenings, I also made changes. Before, I always ended my day with my phone, wasting hours online and watching things that made me feel weak. Now I decided to create a small night system. I would put my phone away 1 hour before sleep. I would sit with a book instead. At first, I could not read for long. My mind was restless and I felt bored, but slowly my brain adapted. 10 minutes of reading became 20, then 30. My nights became calmer, and my sleep became better. I also began to use the idea of make good habits easy, make bad habits hard. For example, to make studying easier, I kept my books on the desk, open and ready. When I sat down, I did not need to prepare. I could start immediately. To make exercise easier, I placed my shoes next to my bed. The first thing I saw in the morning was a reminder to move. At the same time, I made bad habits harder. I deleted social media apps from my phone. I blocked websites that distracted me. I put my phone far from my bed at night. These small barriers made it less likely for me to fall back into old traps. It was not perfect. Sometimes I found ways to cheat. Sometimes I reinstalled apps. Sometimes I wasted hours. Sometimes I gave in to temptation. But every time I failed, I returned to the system. I reminded myself that failure was not the end. The only danger was quitting completely. One of the most powerful tools I discovered was habit stacking. I realized that my brain loved patterns. If one action always followed another, it became automatic. So I built small chains of habits. After brushing my teeth, I did push-ups. After push-ups, I wrote one sentence. After the sentence, I studied for 10 minutes. This chain gave structure to my mornings. It was no longer a question of should I do this? It became automatic. Soon, I added more stacks. After lunch, I read for 15 minutes. After dinner, I went for a short walk. After the walk, I drank water instead of soda. These chains were not big, but together they began to replace the chaos of my old life. As weeks passed, I began to notice changes. My body felt a little stronger. My mind felt a little clearer. My studies improved. Teachers noticed that I was more present. My parents noticed that I was more focused. Even my friends, who used to see me as lazy, started asking, "What happened to you?" Of course, I was not yet successful. I still struggled with bad habits. Pornography did not disappear overnight. Laziness still pulled me sometimes. But now, I had a weapon. I had a system to return to whenever I fell. That system gave me hope. The biggest change was in how I saw myself. In the past, I always called myself lazy, weak, addicted, useless. But with every small win, I started to tell myself, I am the kind of person who studies daily. I am the kind of person who trains. I am the kind of person who respects myself. These words shaped my identity. Slowly, I began to believe them. There was one day that proved to me how powerful the system was. I was very tired and did not feel like studying. In the past, I would have skipped the whole day. But now, because my rule was just 10 minutes, I opened the book. I told myself, only 10 minutes, then I can stop. 10 minutes later, I was already focused and I continued for 1 full hour. I realized that the hardest part is not studying, it is starting. And my system made starting easy. My body also started to change. One push-up became 5, then 10, then 20. Soon I was doing small workouts in my room. Later, I felt confident enough to join a gym. I started running outside too, even if it was just for 10 minutes. Slowly, my body gained strength. I felt more alive. At the same time, my relationships improved. Because I was more confident, I spoke more in class. I talked to classmates without fear. I listened better. I smiled more. People noticed the difference. It was not because I became a genius or a superhero. It was because I finally respected myself. My sleep also improved. Putting the phone away at night gave me peace. I slept earlier, and I woke up earlier. I still loved sleeping, but now my sleep was healthier. I had energy in the morning, something I never experienced before. Little by little, these changes built a new life for me. They were not miracles, they were not magic, but they were real. I was no longer waiting for motivation. I was no longer dreaming of big sudden changes. I was building a system, brick by brick, habit by habit. I understood something important. Success is not about intensity, it is about consistency. One day of hard work means nothing if you disappear for a week, but small daily actions, repeated again and again, create a mountain. Looking back, I can see the difference. Before, my days were full of guilt, shame, and wasted hours. Now, my days had structure, energy, and meaning. I was not yet the person I wanted to be, but I was no longer the person I used to be. This was the power of small habits turning into a system. They gave me stability, direction, and hope. They gave me the foundation to grow in every part of my life: education, health, sports, relationships, and behavior. And this was only the beginning. When I first began changing my habits, my goal was simple. I just wanted to escape the pain of my old life. I wanted to stop feeling like a failure. But as I kept practicing small steps, something surprising happened. My habits were no longer just actions. They began to shape how I saw myself. I started to build a new identity, and that new identity gave me confidence. In my old life, I used to tell myself negative stories. I would look in the mirror and say, "You are weak, you are lazy, you are addicted, you are worthless." Every failure added to that story. Every wasted day, every relapse, every broken promise confirmed the image I had of myself. I believed those words so deeply that they became my reality. But habits have power. Even small wins can tell a different story. When I did one push-up, I could say, "I am someone who moves." When I wrote one sentence, I could say, "I am someone who writes." When I studied for 10 minutes, I could say, "I am someone who learns." These small actions started to rewrite the book of my life. The biggest lesson I learned was this: change happens when you act like the person you want to become, even before you believe it. At first, I did not feel like a disciplined person, but when I followed my tiny system, I acted like one. Over time, action came before belief. Slowly, belief followed. One day, I remember standing in front of the mirror after a workout. Sweat was running down my face and my arms were shaking from push-ups. Normally, I hated looking at myself, but that day, something felt different. I saw not just the weak boy I used to be. I saw someone who was trying, someone who was changing. For the first time, I told myself, "I am proud of you." That sentence hit me hard. I had never said it to myself before. Always criticism, always anger, always disappointment, but never pride. That day I realized, confidence does not come from shouting or pretending. Confidence comes from evidence. Every time I kept a promise to myself, I collected evidence that I could trust myself. and self-trust became confidence. I also noticed that confidence is not loud. In my old life, I tried to hide my weakness by making excuses, lying to friends, or pretending I did not care. That was fake confidence. Real confidence is quiet. It is not about showing others. It is about knowing inside yourself that you are growing. My new identity began to show in small ways. For example, in the past, when teachers asked a question, I stayed silent. I was afraid of being wrong. But now, because I studied a little every day, I had knowledge. And because I had knowledge, I dared to raise my hand. Sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong. But the act of speaking gave me strength. In sports, too, my confidence grew. Before, I avoided physical activities because I was weak and embarrassed. But after weeks of simple exercises, I joined friends in a football game. At first I was slow, but I kept running. When I finally scored a goal, the joy was not just about winning. It was about proving that I was no longer the same boy who hid in the corner. My relationships improved as well. When I respected myself, I began to respect others more. I listened better in conversations. I looked people in the eye. I did not hide behind screens all the time. People could feel the difference. Some friends even came to me for advice, asking how I became more disciplined. That shocked me, because just a few months before, I was the one who needed saving. One important part of identity change was learning to let go of my old labels. I used to call myself lazy, addicted, inconsistent. These labels trapped me. But now I began to replace them with new labels: learner, athlete, writer, disciplined person. At first, these words felt strange, almost like lies, but the more I practiced my habits, the more they became true. I also realized that identity is not about being perfect. Even now, I sometimes failed. I sometimes wasted time. I sometimes slipped back into bad habits. But failure no longer destroyed me, because I knew it did not define me. One mistake did not erase my new identity. I could always return to my system. Another lesson that gave me confidence was understanding the power of environment. In the past, my environment pulled me into bad habits. My phone was full of temptations. My room was messy. My desk was always empty with no books ready. Everything around me pushed me toward laziness. Now I designed my environment for success. I kept my books on the desk, my shoes by the door, my phone far from my bed. I cleaned my room regularly so that I felt fresh. These small changes created invisible support. They made it easier to act like the person I wanted to be. When good actions became easier than bad ones, my confidence grew naturally. I also learned to celebrate small wins. Before, I only celebrated big results: a high grade, a big achievement, a huge change. But those things come slowly. Waiting for them made me impatient and disappointed. Now, I celebrated the process. Finishing my daily habits became my victory. Writing one page, finishing a short run, or going to bed on time, these became my medals. Every celebration added to my belief that I was improving. One example was my journal. Each night I wrote a short line about what I achieved that day. Even if it was small, like I did my 10 push-ups or I studied for 10 minutes, I wrote it down. Over time, the journal became a book of proof. Whenever I doubted myself, I opened it and saw hundreds of small wins. That gave me power. With more confidence, I dared to face deeper problems. Pornography and masturbation were still challenges for me. These habits had been part of my life for years. At first, I thought I could never escape, but confidence from other areas gave me hope. If I could change my study habits, my fitness, and my sleep, why not this too? I applied the same strategy. Start small, change environment, create identity. I blocked websites, avoided triggers, and filled my time with better activities. I told myself, I am the kind of person who respects my mind and body. Of course, I still failed sometimes, but the failures became less frequent. Each success gave me evidence that freedom was possible. Slowly, my brain rewired itself. The constant need for quick pleasure weakened because my life was now full of real pleasures. Progress in studies, strength in my body, deeper friendships, calmer sleep. The more I enjoyed these, the less attractive my old habits became. This gave me even more confidence. Confidence that I could rise above my past. I also understood that confidence is not about comparing yourself to others. It is about comparing yourself to your past self. When I looked at who I was 6 months ago, lazy, tired, addicted, and then looked at myself now, I saw a huge difference. That gap was my pride. That gap was my confidence. One of the most powerful moments came when a friend who used to tease me for being lazy said, "You have changed. You are not the same person anymore." Those words touched me deeply. It was proof that my new identity was not just in my head. It was visible to the world. Confidence also changed how I planned my future. Before, I had no dreams. I thought success was for other people. I thought, but with my new habits and new identity, I started to dream again. I believed that I could build something great. Not overnight, not with magic, but with consistency. I wanted to study harder and get good grades. I wanted to build a strong, healthy body. I wanted to form meaningful relationships. I wanted to live a life with purpose. And for the first time, I believed these dreams were possible. This shift in identity and confidence was the real foundation of my transformation. Without it, habits would just be actions. But with identity, habits became proof of who I was. Every small step told me, you are not weak, you are not lazy, you are growing. And with that belief, I felt ready to face bigger challenges and reach higher goals. When I look back at the person I used to be, it almost feels like I am looking at a stranger. My old life was full of mistakes, shame, and wasted time. I lived without purpose, without discipline, and without respect for myself. But now, after years of building small habits and changing step by step, my life feels new. I feel stronger, more confident, and more alive. The journey was not easy, but it was worth it. The biggest change I see in myself is balance. In the past, every part of my life was broken. My health was weak, my studies were poor, my relationships were shallow, and my mind was filled with addiction. I could not trust myself, but today I see growth in all areas. I study with focus, I take care of my body, I enjoy sports, I respect my family, and I live with better self-control. This balance did not come from luck. It came from small daily actions that slowly built a new version of me. Education taught me that consistency is more powerful than intelligence. I used to believe I was not smart enough, but the truth was that I was not consistent enough. Once I started reading a little every day, my mind opened. I realized that knowledge is built the same way a wall is built, one brick at a time. Health gave me strength. In the past, I ate badly, slept too much, and avoided exercise. I felt tired all the time. But when I started caring for my body, everything changed. With more energy, my mind became clearer. With better sleep, my focus grew stronger. With daily exercise, I felt proud of myself. My body became a tool for growth, not a prison of weakness. Sports taught me courage. At first, I was afraid of looking weak, so I avoided games. But when I joined, I discovered that sports are not just about winning. They are about learning how to push forward, how to work with others, and how to accept both victory and defeat with grace. Playing made me more confident in myself and more connected with people. Relationships also changed in a deep way. Before, I was selfish and closed. My bad habits made me avoid people, even the ones who loved me. But when I started respecting myself, I naturally began respecting others. My family began to trust me again. My friendships became real instead of fake. I learned that love and respect grow when you show them daily through small actions, not big promises. My behavior as a person is where I see the biggest change. I used to be a slave to my bad habits, pornography, substances, laziness, and endless sleep. Every time I gave in, I lost more confidence in myself. But when I started replacing these habits with better ones, I started to change from the inside. Waking up early made me feel like a disciplined person. Studying every day made me feel like a learner. Saying no to temptation made me feel like someone who has power over his own life. Habits slowly shaped my identity. Now, when I look at my life, I see hope. I am not perfect. I still make mistakes. I still feel temptations and I still fall sometimes. But the difference is that now I get back up. I do not let one failure destroy me. I trust the system I have built. I believe in the power of small steps. If there is one lesson I want to share with anyone who feels lost, it is this: you can change. No matter how deep your bad habits are, no matter how weak you feel, change is possible. Do not try to fix everything at once. Start small. One good habit is enough to begin. One glass of water, one page of study, one push-up, one honest conversation. These small actions may look powerless, but over time, they will transform your life. I was once trapped in darkness, wasting my days on addictions and weakness. But today, I stand with more strength, more confidence, and more peace. If I could rise from that place, so can you. Do not wait for the perfect day to start. Begin now. Begin small. Keep going. Your future self will thank you for the steps you take today. Change is never easy, but it is always possible. I was once trapped in bad habits and weakness, but small daily actions transformed my life. If I could do it, so can you. Start today, stay consistent, and trust the process. Your future self will thank you. Build identity. Stack habits. Design your environment. Make bad habits hard. Make good habits easy. Focus on systems, not goals. The next morning, I decided to test this. I did not say, "From now on, I will be a perfect person." Number. I chose one tiny thing. When I woke up, instead of staying in bed for one more hour, I stood up immediately and did one push-up. Just one. That was it. After that, I brushed my teeth and went back to my normal lazy day. But even that one push-up gave me a strange feeling. It was small, but it was a start. The following day, I did 2 push-ups. On the third day, 3. Soon, it became a little game. It was so easy that I could not fail. It was nothing compared to going to the gym, but it made me feel different. I began to think, maybe I am not lazy after all. Maybe I can change. At the same time, I tried another small habit. Before, I used to scroll my phone first thing in the morning. I replaced that with something tiny. After brushing my teeth, I opened a notebook and wrote one sentence about what I wanted to do that day. Sometimes it was simple, like, "I will read for 10 minutes." Sometimes it was, "I will try not to waste the morning." The sentences were short, but they gave me direction. I also tested the idea of environment design. I realized that my phone was my biggest enemy. It was my gateway to pornography, social media, and endless distractions. So I began charging my phone in another room at night. This way, when I woke up, I could not immediately grab it. Instead, I stood up and moved. That one change gave me back 1 or 2 hours every morning. In the beginning, these habits felt silly. One push-up, one sentence, moving my phone. But slowly I started to feel the power of consistency. The truth is, my old habits were also small at first. One video, one cigarette, one wasted hour. But repeated daily, they destroyed me. Now small positive actions began to build me. Of course, it was not easy. I still failed many times. I still fell back into pornography. I still wasted hours. But something was different now. Before, when I failed, I felt hopeless and gave up completely. Now, when I failed, I reminded myself, this is part of the process. I only need to return to the small habit. That mindset kept me going. Another idea from Atomic Habits that helped me was habit stacking. It meant connecting a new habit to something I already did. For example, I already brushed my teeth every morning, so I stacked a new habit. After brushing my teeth, I did push-ups. Later, I added another stack. After push-ups, I wrote one sentence in my notebook. This way, my morning routine began to grow naturally. I also learned about identity. Instead of saying, I want to stop watching porn, I said, I am the kind of person who respects myself. Instead of saying, I want to study more, I said, I am the kind of person who learns every day. These words seemed simple, but they changed how I saw myself. Slowly, I started to believe them. Within a few weeks, I was not a different person yet, but I felt a seed inside me. For the first time in years, I had hope. I could see a small light at the end of the tunnel. I realized that change was not about fighting harder. Change was about building better habits, step by step. Looking back now, I see that this was the most important turning point in my life. It was the moment when I stopped living like a victim and started living like a creator. It was the moment when I discovered that I did not need to change everything at once. I just needed to start small, repeat daily, and let the results grow.